first of the year. How do you feel about that, Diane? Diane Vitagliano. Wow, I've never had a problem with that name until now. Diane, why don't you come on up? Sit next to Anna. I think that's how we'll do it this year. If there's only one of you coming up, we'll try to keep it casual. And that's normally the firing squad's target.
I know, I'm not sure.
That's where I sit.
Here.
But you'll be okay tonight. Thank you, Diane. We did a good thing a couple of years ago. We hired Diane as our town assessor. Done a remarkable job. Brought fresh eyes and a fresh perspective to the job. Your budget, do you want to run through it a little bit with us? First of all, Anna, why don't we start with you and talk about what we're going to see when we look at department head requests when it comes to assessor, when it comes to wages. Like we're seeing a 4.3% raise in the assessor. Could you explain, because nobody in this town is getting a 4.3% raise.
Correct.
Right, so could you, in the microphone, just let us know why some of these budgets look like this?
Okay, so actually, at the last Board of Selectmen meeting and then last week at the Board of Finance meeting, we took action to transfer funds from the payroll contingency into various groups within the town for their wage increases for the current fiscal year, because they were all approved subsequent to the budget process. So in the situation of the assessor's office, you see a 3.74% increase, which is the percent increase over the original adopted budget. But once we transferred the wage increases for the assessor and the assessment aides into the budget, the amended column changed. And with that, instead of it being a 3.74% budget increase, it's actually a 2.09% increase.
So at the bottom, down
bottom
below,
line.
it's 2.09?
Correct.
Okay.
Because the where you see the amended column, although it's not reflected on the worksheets in front of you this evening, the amended column has changed, and that's the reason. So
What's the bottom line on the amended column?
the bottom line is...
It was 208.
Right, it's 211,496, $211,496. So with the wage increases, it increased that column.
And that's because the wages were approved after our budget last year.
Correct.
And now next year's wages are already approved.
Correct.
So when they get a 4.3% increase, that's over 2 years. That's 2
Correct.
years worth.
That's correct, yes.
This is the current year, and next year is baked into the 4.3.
Correct.
All right. And we're going to see some confusion as we go through all these budgets, so we'll just slow down when we get to wages and understand that nobody in town is getting those kind of wage increases. There are a few that would be, and rightfully so, would ask those kind of questions. Everything else remains somewhat flat. Do you want to kind of just walk us through what your department's been doing without, killing us with details, because what you do is very complicated.
Yes, so most of my budget is in service contracts, which consists of Vision, which is our CAMA system, and that's what provides us our field cards and the hosting of the information of the field card on the website. So that's how we keep track of all of our values. That's our valuation system. And last year, I was able to reduce us from 6 to 10 users down to the 2 to 5 user category, and it saved $1,500. And so that savings goes forward as well. So this year, it's almost $1,600 worth of savings by just dropping down that one user. We got rid of a public computer. So in order to do that, that was the trade-off. We got rid of the computer, but I'm able to have the information updated more frequently online, and so that's helpful. The other part of it, the CAMA system, is one system, and that has to talk to our administrative system, which is Walsh, and that's the system that we share with the tax office. It's how the tax office gets the billing file from us. And that administrative program that did go up 5%. And that's, the previous year we had asked them for a flat, no increase, and so they've been working with us. Then the contracted operating services, that's where the money that I use for audits, personal property audits and personal property listings. And so that actually, I don't have the larger ones this year yet because we're just in the process of identifying the accounts that we're going to audit. But from the previous year, the return was about over 600%. The return
Fantastic.
on what we
Great.
saved.
Any questions from anyone?
Just one thing to point out is, we talk about, and I notice under miscellaneous, you have required advertising costs. There's no way around that. But I like, we talk about trying to regionalize a little bit. It says you keep the cost of the advertising down by having 2 other towns join with your ads. So just that little bit of stuff that helps save a
Yes.
few dollars.
Yep,
Just a little bit to help save a few
That's
dollars.
interesting.
It does help. So I design the ad and they reimburse me. We split it 3 ways, they reimburse me. I reached out to Old Lyme and Lyme. I reached out to Waterford as well, hoping that we could go 4 ways, but they declined.
Okay. All right, thank you. But just that appreciated that you're making efforts to, try and help regionalize what we always say. But
Thank you.
some more of a comment than a question.
A year ago, we exercised our ability to go out and bid, or at least look at the competition on the Walsh contract, which is a significant contract, and they do keep bumping up every 5% every year. We asked them for a hold last year. They granted it. It doesn't hurt to ask, but there's only 2 players in that game. Right, and the other one is a big monster we just think this customer service, I guess we'll just highlight the positive. We think Walsh delivers a better customer service experience, and the price is comparable anyway. So if not, so we know that we priced that out, and even though it's bumping up 5%, and they tend to do that, it's the best we can do.
Yes.
Right? Any questions? We're pretty cut and dry on the assessor's office budget. We appreciate all the hard work you do. You're a valued department head in town, and we're really glad you're part of the team.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. I'm not going to be nice to all of you. Oh, speaking of which, the building inspector. Folks, you remember at this time last year, Joe Smith would get up in front of you, and he served our town and served it well for well over a decade.
20 years.
Yeah, maybe a couple, right. So Steve was his assistant. See, this is Mr. Steve Way. Was his assistant, his part-timer, and then when Joe vacated and we were scrambling, we brought Steve in for as a temporary assignment, and actually that's come up on a renewal, so that's some work we'll do before the end of the week as well, is move that along. But Steve's doing a great job. Difficult in this industry in this job, because the building codes are always changing, and people, especially the contractors you deal with, get kind of stuck in their ways, and what was yesterday's rules are definitely not tomorrow's rules, and we're dealing with a lot of change, plus a fresh set of eyes and fresh person working on files, etc. Will put his stamp on it, much like Diane has done. Steve is doing as well. So welcome, Steve. Welcome.
Glad
And
to
thank
be
you for your hard work too. And the transition again has been very difficult, but I think we're smoothing out some of the
The old
wrinkles.
expression,
And
you gotta break a few eggs to make a cake, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
right.
unfortunately, we're in a cake making business, people's homes.
So we'll start with Anna again on the wages. We see significant decreases here. This is because, are those accurate? The minus 11%.
Yeah, they're clearly not paying enough.
Well, because we've also, again, we've gone through the contracts, but that's updated and that's correct.
Well, the issue here is, we had a long-term employee leaving, so when we
But that was
hired.
after the budget,
so
right.
So that's,
Right.
well, when we hired Steve, it's at a lower salary. But,
Okay.
and the one area where the wages did change are for the admin clerical support, which is Department 311. So when that change was made, instead of having the budget go down by 4.51%, it's actually 4.9%.
4.9 is the admin clerical now?
No, that's the decrease in the budget. It's a
Oh.
larger decrease.
Minus 4.9% decrease?
Right.
I think we're all done with you, Steve.
And revenues increase.
Anybody with a minus sign, you could have stayed home. That's great, but even those kind of budgets, you got to make sure that there's no waste and all that. You want to introduce yourself and maybe just run through what your department's going through, what we can expect this year?
Again, hello to all that I haven't met, but there's a big change. As Mr. Smith was there for 20 years, I love him to death, good friend of mine, but some people get set in their ways and their habits, and I got different habits, and so there's always been a little transitional issue there. And we're getting different change of policies and things like that. I'm a lot more on board with Gary and Bill in the land use office. I think we're meshing a lot of our thoughts together, whereas I think that was an issue in the past. We're doing 12% more in permits this year than we were last year. And
Okay.
last year we did 11% more than the year before that.
Wow.
And we're doing that with 1 day a week, because as an assistant, I worked 3 days a week and Joe worked 5. I work the equivalent of 5 and my assistant works 2. So we're doing it with 1 day a week less, almost 23% more in permits, the quantity in permits. In addition to that, one of my changes in policies was, instead of, when somebody come in for a new house permit, instead of issuing a permit for the house, the electrical, the plumbing, the heating, those would be 5 permits. I issue 1 permit for the project. So those numbers would actually be higher if we were counting them the way they were in previous years. So I think we're doing that pretty good.
Okay.
We're utilizing computers far more than we had been. We have a computer system. It is lacking in a lot of areas, but it's what we have. So we're going to try to utilize it to our best. We've got our admins trying to focus more on getting us up to speed using it. We've essentially just been using it as a note-taking machine for the last couple of years. What we want to take advantage of using it as notifications for inspection reports and things like that to speed that thing up and make ourselves more efficient.
So it's a high-level computer program that specializes in building
Specializes
code,
in permits and
these kind of
interaction with
things.
other land use issues.
We haven't really tapped into the potential. It really is an all-encompassing thing, and everything can be. We can be zipping permits electronically to different departments. Everyone's signing up, and we're not doing that because we still
Absolutely not
had some old dogs. It was tough to teach new tricks to. But we're trying to start utilizing that program that we're already paying for.
Oh,
We
yeah,
paid for,
we're
we pay the
paying
licensing
for it.
for every year. So we're going to try to bring us up to speed on that. Steve, thanks for your attention to that. I got to say that it's as much as we've been in transition, getting the departments to work better together, including the admin staff, which they do a lot of work down there.
They do.
It's you've had an influence on that, and that's appreciated. Is there any questions about this particular budget?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
And this is probably just an accounting question. First of all, permit refunds.
What is it for?
Yeah, why wouldn't it just come out of the permit fees that came in and go back out? Is it just for accounting purposes,
it's more of-
$1,400?
More of an issue for Anna, but
So we tend to use that, that budget account for when it's a permit refund from a prior fiscal year. In the current fiscal year, that's correct, we do net it out of the receipt, but that's a provision for when it's a prior year.
Okay, makes sense. And the new line item for uniform allowance, $1,000. It's 2 people, that's $500 apiece to go buy a jacket, a
Well,
polo shirt, and a
and
cap.
my
Seems-
initial thought was higher, actually, and Mark has already cut that down. But, well,
Yeah.
the reality of it is, yeah, you're right, there's 2 of us, but, you know, we want to present a professional image. There's more than a few times we're going into people's homes and, you know, we get kind of funny looks because we're just wearing whatever we wear. We want to look professional. Almost every other town in the area has their building officials wearing polo shirts, windbreakers, whatever it may be. And we also destroy a lot of our clothes, and that's part of what we asked for too, is to be able to replace a pair of boots and to be able to replace a pair of pants, because, you know, we're crawling around in the mud and concrete and digging out some strange things in attics and various places where you hook yourself on a nail and you destroy a shirt, you know. So we want to keep that in mind.
And we're starting from zero.
And that, we're starting from 0, right? I don't think we wouldn't expect that every year.
Right.
My last question is, no benefits provided for the incumbent? Under the,
Either one of us. No.
So there's no benefits as part of their wage package?
Well, other than time.
Yeah, so your part-timer wouldn't qualify, I don't think, or is he up to 30 hours? No. And Steve, as an interim, doesn't, but now he's crossed over that magical 6 months mark, so we are gonna sit down and talk about that package. But I don't think you need, I mean, it's personal, but, yeah, we don't
So do we
foresee there being a
expect
big.
that to end up increasing once that discussion has taken place? The 85, 890 doesn't include any?
No, that's just salary.
Benefits go elsewhere.
Salary is the only thing in this department. If there were benefits, it would be covered in Department 114.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Good ones. Again, pretty cut and dry when you come in with a negative number. You know, it's not gonna be this
And the
easy
revenue-
next year,
And the
Steve.
revenue up.
Yeah, right.
So,
I'm just a comment. I think the uniform idea is a good thing. You know, today with people showing up at your house, you don't know who they are, and I
Well,
know in
that's-
Hartford MDC, they've had a real problem with that,
And I've had that look on people's
Yeah.
faces a few times, and especially if it happens to be where I gotta pull up in my own vehicle.
yeah, no, it's a different world, and that's probably a reasonable thing, in my mind.
Thank you.
As you might remember, the new building official
Yes.
vehicle was just delivered a week or two ago. So it's what is it, a Ford Escape?
Escape, four-wheel drive.
Economy car kind of thing, but it's nice. It will have the town logo on it. It
Yeah, it's all
provides a
logo.
professional look, but also cuts the
Yeah.
mileage expenses
It'll
down.
cut that dramatically. We tried to eliminate it earlier, but today, I mean, he was out doing inspections and I had to get.
There's 2 of them,
I
there's
had to
one
go to
car, so,
courthouse,
yeah.
so, you know, I mean, it's not gonna be forever eliminated.
Thanks,
It'll
Steve.
certainly cut down on the breakdown mileage.
We appreciate you, Steve. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Keep up the good work. Is the police next?
Yes.
Oh, my. You both coming up? We can put one at the podium. Well, we can put you both there. So we can chair over, Sergeant. While we're waiting for you to tuck in, we'll remind everyone there's a referendum tomorrow. Between 8 and 8 tomorrow, that's Wednesday. Between 8 and 8 at the Senior Center area, which is the East Lyme Community Center. 8 to 8 is all day. If you are a registered voter, or if you own property in town, taxable property of $1,000 or more, you're welcome to vote. So come on down, and if you don't know by now, there's a referendum on a police station. And that's about all I'm going to say. So welcome, Police Department. Welcome, Chief Mike, Sergeant Mike. Again, the I guess the wage line, I'll reiterate, that's 2 years' worth of 4.3.
Just in the admin clerical accounts and the, actually, the police chief as well, because the police contract has not yet been resolved.
Oh, right. So I'm looking at police chief and admin,
Correct.
but not the police officers. That's not a,
The reason for the increase in that account is the new officer.
okay, that includes a new officer, and we'll go through that. So Mike, instead of, why don't you set the stage for us?
That's
Chief?
fine. Thank you very much for having us tonight. We'll go through our budget. For the most part, the top portions are contractual, or the raises, which Anna had alluded to. The first increase, which is not contractual, is we're looking to add an additional police officer. It's my understanding it's been at least 15 years since there's been an officer added to the force. As we heard the building official a little while ago, building permits continue to be up, commercial development in town is up, calls are up, yet we have not increased the size of our police department. Statistically, we are woefully understaffed compared to comparable towns around Connecticut, and the police commission is looking to rectify that by adding to the force. That addition to the force allows us to be more proactive. Right now, we are extremely reactive because at 23 officers at 1.2 per capita, we're well below where we should be, and we're really a reactive force. Looking to change that in many ways to be a more proactive force, and doing that by adding people. So, any questions?
Well, your original ask was for 2 officers. We should
Exactly.
probably start there. The
So-
police commission voted to put on 2 officers into your budget, and that's how it arrived to my office.
So, originally, we were looking to add 2. That was in the original budget proposal. That is what is endorsed by the police commission. When the budget was submitted to the first selectman, that was cut back to 1. But again, the police commission strongly reiterates their desire to add 2 to the budget, or to the force.
So that's up for discussion as well. Just because I cut it doesn't mean you can't put it back in, or the Board of Finance did. I kind of think in the next 5 years, if we add 1 on a year, we get up to that 30 level, close to it anyway. I guess we wouldn't, I guess like 7 years, which is, even that is a minimal number for a town our size.
Certainly, the average is 2.1 per 1,000 residents, and just reminding you, we're at 1.2. You look over our border to Waterford, and while the dynamics are a little bit different, the population's the same. They have 49 officers.
Oh.
Stonington, which has a smaller population than us, has 40 officers, and we're at 23. So just, when you look just around us, we are way under for our staffing. And that ultimately has an effect on how we're able to police our community. Again, that reactive versus proactive. We're not able to get numbers out there to proactively seek out crime, especially when it's drug-related or other types of crime that we're getting lots of complaints on. We have to react to those rather than go out and try to find them, much higher level.
Chief, you're into the 2nd year now, about a year and a half into independence. What is the most noticeable evolution of our journey here of going independent? You started from A, and you're
Well, I
down
think
the road.
able to find efficiencies, being able to streamline the administrative portion of the department, the decision-making level, being able to be done right here on the local level rather than going through multiple layers in the state police, and ultimately having decisions that are made that are not in the town's best interest. Myself and the first selectman, the police commission, and Sergeant Masick are able to really make those decisions on our level, and follow through with those. So I think that has been huge. Being able to be a lot more visible in the community and having a vested interest in the community, I think has been, the feedback I hear from people is they enjoy that. They are definitely getting positive feedback from the police department and the activities that we have. So I think it's been good.
Questions? It's a mighty budget. It's a big budget. It's a big department.
So just want to keep going through there.
Sure.
We have a nominal bump up in part-time officers, which again is extremely low. Also on the overtime, looking just to go up just a small amount on that. That is kind of twofold, anticipating possible raises because a salary adjustment in a settled contract would not hit the overtime line, and there would be an adverse effect if we have a raise, but we didn't jump that up, just that small amount, because the number of hours is what's used in overtime, not the overall amount. So that's important to realize. If you have 10 hours of overtime, it's going to get expended much further if you're paying them a higher rate, so, or much quicker, excuse me, not further.
Anna, that's not figured into wage contingency? We don't figure overtime bumps?
We just typically do regular wages.
Well, that's something we gotta fix for all departments, right? I mean, there's some, fire too, right? So we get caught short there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Chief.
But, I just want to point out too, since we did have the small raise in the overtime last year, we are trending, even though we've had some very large events that have taken place, we're trending very much on target for the end of the year, to not have to make any transfers or come back for the overtime. So, I think we've got that right, and we want to continue to do that next year. If you're looking at longevity, that is a contractual jump up in some longevity. Facility rental, that's the rental with Waterford for the prisoner holding and evidence. That is by contract with the town of Waterford. And other than that, you jump to the second page. In uniforms, I'm asking for a $2,000 increase. That is with the anticipation, if we have an officer approved, to fully outfit a new officer is about $2,000 to get that uniform and outfitting done properly. So didn't want to have an adverse effect on the other part of the uniform budget if we added an officer. And also looking at a decrease in the scheduling software, because then it becomes a yearly maintenance. However, looking to add Power DMS software, which is a policy and training software, which puts us in line with the new state statute that was just enacted that requires each police department to have policies that are accessible by the post academy. So every department that I know of is using Power DMS, and that's what we're looking to go to also. But again, that keeps us in line with the requirements. At the same time, it also makes us much more effective. Right now, if we change a policy, we put a general order out, we have to create that, put that out in a book, get officers to sign off on that. However, there is no definitive, this is the absolute last policy. Power DMS keeps track of that. It's a software program that when we put a policy out, it automatically goes out to the officers. There's an electronic signature that's done, that they've read it, they acknowledge it, and it keeps the most up-to-date version of your policies right there at your, accessible at your fingertips. At the same time, it allows the academy to access them to keep us in line with what that statute has called for. So I think, for a small investment of $2,000, it puts us where we need to be efficiency and policy-wise. It's also a, huge liability issue to make sure officers are up to date with the policies.
No more 3-ring binders.
Unfortunately, that's where we are now.
Yeah,
we have gone to having a, part of our server utilized, but at the same time, it's still difficult to maintain which is the latest version. If somebody were to, put another version or another piece of a document into there, you don't have any electronic way to track that, where Power DMS allows you to do that tracking.
I'll jump in and then I'll ask for other questions. If tomorrow's vote is successful and at a referendum, and we're going to go ahead with the police station, let's say it takes us to January 1st, and just pick halfway through your year. Do you anticipate any additional costs in your budget to operate out of that other location?
No, I don't think there is anything in our budget. I think the conversation that we've been having is looking at unknowns of power, heating, being a large